Somewhere in the Ural Mountains, there's a tent. It's torn open, not unzipped, not untied, cut from the inside. And whoever did it didn't stop to grab their coat. They didn't stop to grab their boots either, or their gloves, or, honestly, most of their clothes. In -25-degree weather, at night, on a mountain with a name that translates, more or less, to Dead Mountain. 9 people went up that mountain. None of them made it back down. And to this day, nobody can fully explain why. Let's back up. It's January 1959. A group of 10 university students and graduates set out on a skiing expedition through the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. This isn't a group of amateurs stumbling into the wilderness with a granola bar and a dream. These are experienced hikers, most of them grade 2 hiking certified, which was basically the "we know what we're doing" badge of Soviet outdoor sports. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, had done this kind of trip before. He was 23, methodical, and by every account the kind of guy who double-checked the weather report twice. One member, Yuri Yudin, turns back early due to illness, a knee problem or altitude sickness depending on who you ask. Either way, small mercy, because that decision is the only reason there's a survivor to tell part of this story at all. Imagine finding out, weeks later, that the flu might have saved your life. The remaining 9 press on, 7 men, 2 women. Their goal? A mountain called Otorten. Their route takes them past a slope the local Mansi people call Kolatsyakal, which translates to Dead Mountain. Cool. Nothing ominous about that at all. Along the way, the group kept diaries and took photographs, because, of course they did, they were students, and if there's one thing students in 1959 loved as much as students today, it's documenting absolutely everything. Those diaries survive. They talk about the cold, about jokes between friends, about a wall newspaper they made together making fun of each other. Right up until the last entries, everything reads completely normal. A little tired, a little cold, nothing that reads like the beginning of a horror story. That's the part that gets people. There's no warning in the record. No, something feels wrong tonight. Just normal, and then nothing at all. On February 1st, they set up camp on the open slope, instead of a tree line a few hundred meters below that would have offered better shelter from the wind. Nobody knows exactly why. Poor visibility, maybe. Or maybe Dyatlov wanted to avoid losing elevation they'd already gained. Or maybe they genuinely just didn't think it would matter. It mattered. The last photograph recovered from their cameras shows figures in the snow, setting up camp, doing completely ordinary tent things. It's almost disappointing, in a way. You want the last photo to show something. It doesn't. It just shows people at the end of an unremarkable day, a few hours before whatever happened. When the group didn't check in as planned, search parties were sent out. What they found didn't make sense then, and it still doesn't fully make sense now. The tent was still standing, half collapsed under snow, but standing. And it had been cut open from the inside in multiple places, like someone was in far too much of a hurry to deal with a zipper. Footprints led away from the tent, some barefoot, some in socks, a few in a single shoe, heading downhill, into forest, into sub-zero temperatures, into the dark. People do not walk into sub-zero mountain air in their socks unless something has gone very, very wrong inside that tent. The first 2 bodies were found near the tree line, close to the remains of a small fire, under a large pine. Both in minimal clothing, both dead from hypothermia. The branches of that pine were broken up to about 5 meters high, as if someone had been climbing it, maybe to look back toward the tent, maybe to look for something else entirely. Between them and the tent, 3 more bodies were found, spaced out in poses that suggested they'd been trying to crawl back toward camp. Also hypothermia. That's 5. Tragic, but at this point, still consistent with a story you could believe. Panic, cold, a bad decision made worse by a worse decision. Then it stops making sense. The final 4 bodies weren't found until nearly 2 months later, buried under several meters of snow in a ravine further into the forest. And these injuries were different, traumatic, severe. One had major chest fractures. Another had a fractured skull. And here's the detail that keeps this case alive on the internet 60+ years later. The force involved in some of these injuries was compared by the actual medical examiner to the kind of trauma you'd see in a high-speed car crash, on a mountain, at night, with no car, no cliff edge nearby, and no external bruising to explain how that kind of force got there without breaking the skin. One of the women in that group was missing her tongue, along with her eyes and part of her lips. Investigators at the time chalked it up to natural decomposition in the ravine's running water. Not everyone's convinced. Investigators at the time closed the case with a chillingly vague official cause, a compelling natural force, which is Soviet bureaucrat for, "We genuinely have no idea, please stop asking us about it." So, naturally, everyone kept asking. Theory 1, an avalanche. Sudden slide, group panics, cuts the tent to escape. Some die from the cold, others from later injury when the snow settles on top of them. Tidy. Except the snow slope where they camped was gentle, 23 degrees, showed no debris field, and there'd been days of buildup before the incident with no slide until, apparently, exactly the wrong night. Theory 2, infrasound. Certain wind conditions moving over that exact ridge shape can apparently generate a low-frequency vibration that's inaudible but can trigger real, physical panic and nausea in people nearby. Basically, the mountain itself might have made them scared enough to rip their own tent open and run half-dressed into the night without a single rational thought between them. Theory 3, and this is the one the internet loves most, some kind of Soviet military testing in the area. Radiation was reportedly found on a couple of the victims' clothing during the original investigation. Nothing was ever confirmed publicly, which, depending on how much you trust Cold War-era transparency, either means nothing happened or means someone was very, very good at making sure nothing looked like it happened. There's also a parachute mine theory that the group camped in a Soviet weapons testing zone without realizing it and were caught in the shockwave of something falling from above. And if you go deep enough into the forums, there's the Mansi legend angle, that this stretch of mountain has a reputation for making people disappear that predates the Soviet Union entirely. Here's what isn't a theory. 9 people went up a mountain. Something happened in that tent bad enough that people ran into sub-zero air without their shoes on. And whatever it was, it's been 65 years, hundreds of investigations, at least 2 official reopenings of the case, and a small army of internet detectives, and we still don't have a single explanation that accounts for every single piece of evidence at once. The tent's still cut open, by the way, in photographs, frozen in that one moment where somebody decided the cold outside was safer than whatever was happening inside. Every few years, someone announces they've finally solved it. An avalanche study here, a new investigation there. And every time, someone else points out the one detail that theory still can't explain. That's the real reason this case refuses to die. It's not that there are no explanations, it's that there are too many, and none of them fit everything. What would have to happen in your tent, at night, on a mountain, for you to decide that?